My name is Isabella Reed, and I'm 28 years old. If you'd met me a few years ago, you'd probably call me the reliable one. The kind of woman who keeps her calendar color-coded, pays her rent before the deadline, and remembers to water her plants. I never thought of that as dull. To me, stability was a kind of quiet strength. And for a while, I thought my boyfriend William understood that. When we first met, William felt like sunlight, warm, reckless, a little blinding. He was spontaneous, charming, the kind of man who could make a coffee run sound like an adventure. I was drawn to that energy. He said I balanced him out. "You're my calm in the chaos," he'd tell me, kissing my forehead before running off to some last-minute concert or trip. At first, we were perfect opposites. I'd stay up late helping him plan his projects, and he'd make me laugh when I got too serious about work. We were building something together, or at least I thought we were. But as months passed, that spark that once drew us together started to burn me. William loved attention, parties, nightlife, posting every meal online. I loved quiet evenings, slow Sundays, simple things. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy fun. I just didn't need an audience to feel alive. He started teasing me about it. "Come on, Izzy, live a little," he'd say. Then laugh when I reminded him I preferred my full name, not a nickname. "You're too proper for your own good," he'd add with that half smile that made me feel like a museum piece instead of a partner. At first I brushed it off, but the comments sharpened over time. One night after I turned down another last-minute party because I had an early shift the next morning, he sighed dramatically. "You know what your problem is. You act like you're 40. You're not a real woman if all you do is work and stay home." The words hit harder than he realized. A real woman. What did that even mean to him? Someone who drank until sunrise and flirted for sport. I remember standing there frozen with his voice echoing in the kitchen. My hands trembled as I placed my cup on the counter. "If that's what you think a real woman is," I said quietly, "then maybe you should find a different kind." He laughed it off like it was a joke, but something in me shifted that night. From then on, everything felt off balance. When I cooked his favorite meal, he'd barely look up from his phone. When I suggested a movie night, he'd roll his eyes and call me a grandma. He wanted excitement, I wanted connection. He wanted stories to tell, I wanted a future to build. Still, I kept trying. Planning small surprises, saving up for a weekend trip, learning to like the places he loved. But nothing was enough. He wanted constant novelty, and I couldn't compete with chaos. The worst part wasn't the arguing, it was how familiar his indifference became. I'd walk into the apartment and feel like a stranger in my own home. Then came that Friday. I got off work early, hoping to make things better. I stopped by his favorite Thai place, bought wine-lit candles, and set the table for two. The whole apartment smelled like lemongrass and jasmine. For a moment, I imagined his smile when he'd walk in. When William finally came home, the door slammed against the wall. He didn't smile. He tossed his keys on the counter and stared at the plates. "What's this dinner?" I said softly. "I thought we could have a night in." He snorted. "A night in again. Don't you get tired of doing the same thing?" "It's been a long week. I just wanted us to relax." Relax. He smirked. "You mean sit around like old people?" That one cut deep. I stared at him across the table, candles flickering between us. "William, I'm trying. You said you wanted time together." He shrugged, scrolling through his phone. "Time together doesn't mean boring nights and homemade food. You never do anything different, Isabella. You're predictable." I swallowed hard. Predictable isn't always bad. He looked up, then his eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. "Boring is, though. You're not a real woman if you can't keep things exciting." The sentence landed like a slap. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I'd spent 2 years giving him every piece of my steadiness, every ounce of my effort, and he threw it back at me like it meant nothing. Something inside me went still. I picked up the corkscrew, set it down again, and met his gaze. My voice was calm when I said, "Then maybe you should find a woman who wants the same kind of noise you do." He blinked, surprised by my tone. Maybe he thought I'd cry, beg, or apologize. Instead, I turned away, blowing out the candles one by one. The smell of smoke lingered in the silence between us. He didn't follow me that night. He didn't say another word. And I realized silence can speak louder than anger ever could. The morning after that fight, I woke up before the sun. The apartment was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. William's side of the bed was empty. He hadn't come home. I sat there for a moment, staring at the dent his pillow still made. There was no anger left, just a hollow ache, the kind that settles deep in your chest when you know something's already broken beyond repair. I walked into the kitchen. The dinner from last night still sat on the table untouched. The candles had melted into puddles of wax. I picked up the half-drunk glass of wine he'd left behind and poured it down the sink. Watching it swirl away felt strangely final. By the time William came back that afternoon, I had made a decision. He walked in like nothing happened, hair tousled, smelling faintly of alcohol and perfume. My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed steady. "Rough night?" I asked. "Don't start," he muttered, tossing his jacket on the couch. I didn't. I simply turned, walked into the bedroom, and pulled his suitcase from the closet. He followed me, frowning. "What are you doing?" "Helping you," I said, opening his dresser drawers. "You said you needed more excitement. Maybe this will help." He scoffed, still not believing me. "You're being dramatic." I folded one of his shirts carefully. "No, William, I'm being done." That got his attention. His voice rose defensive, almost panicked. "Come on, Isabella, stop it. You don't mean this." "I do. We just need space. Then take it." He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. For a moment, he just stared, confused, maybe realizing this wasn't one of our usual arguments, that the quiet woman who used to compromise for everything wasn't bending anymore. "You're seriously ending this?" he asked. "You already did. I'm just cleaning up the mess." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "So that's it? You're throwing me out because I said one stupid thing." I looked him straight in the eye. "No, I'm letting you go because you don't respect me, because you think loyalty is boring and kindness is weak, because every time I tried to build something real, you looked over my shoulder at the next shiny distraction." He laughed bitterly. "You'll regret this. Guys like me don't come around twice." I zipped the suitcase slowly. The sound sliced through the air like a closing chapter. "You're right," I said softly. "They don't, and I'll make sure of that." I carried the suitcase to the front door. He didn't move to stop me. Maybe he couldn't believe it. Maybe he thought I'd give in at the last second. When the door shut behind him, the silence that filled the room was heavy but clean. I went back to the kitchen, looked at the table, still set for two, and finally sat down. The food was cold, the candles were crooked, but for the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for him. The quiet pressed in around me. My throat burned, but no tears came. I had cried enough inside this relationship already. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from him. "We both need space. I'll call when things calm down." I stared at it for a long time, then I deleted it. No reply, no anger, just stillness. That night, I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom. I stripped the sheets, threw away his half-empty cologne, and opened every window. The cool night air swept through the rooms, carrying away the last of his scent. For the first time in a long while, I slept deeply. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling across my pillow and realized something unexpected. I didn't feel empty. I felt light. The first week without William was brutal. The apartment felt too big, too quiet. I'd find myself cooking enough food for two or reaching for my phone to text him before remembering he wasn't mine to reach for anymore. But pain has a strange way of stretching time. Days that felt unbearable at first began to soften. Silence, which used to feel like punishment, slowly turned into something sacred. I started with small things. I took long walks after work without checking my phone. I bought fresh flowers and placed them in the kitchen, the same kitchen where he once told me I wasn't a real woman. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every night, I wrote one sentence in a journal, something I'd learned, something I'd survived, something I refused to forget. Day 4. I didn't cry today. Day 6, I cooked dinner for myself and enjoyed it. Day 9, I laughed again. Each page felt like reclaiming a part of myself I hadn't realized I'd given away. By the second week, I decided to make changes. I joined a fitness class, not to get revenge or prove anything, but because I wanted to feel strong again. I spent weekends reorganizing my life, clearing out clutter, updating my resume, even applying for a certification course at work that I'd once put off because William didn't want me too busy. Funny how much space you discover when the wrong person stops filling it. Meanwhile, William's name started appearing in conversations I didn't ask for. Mutual friends mentioned seeing him out, always surrounded by people, always posting pictures like he was living his best life. Clinking glasses, dancing girls, fake smiles. I stayed silent, but inside I knew that kind of happiness was just noise. It fades as quickly as it flashes. And I was learning to love the opposite stillness. One Saturday morning, I woke up early to sunlight filtering through the curtains. I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and studied for my exam. Hours passed without music, without distractions, just quiet focus. That calm felt more intoxicating than any party ever had. A few weeks later, I passed the certification test. My boss called me into her office and offered me a raise. "You've really grown lately," she said. "There's confidence in you I didn't see before." She had no idea how much that meant. That evening, I cooked myself a celebratory dinner, the same Thai dish I used to buy for William. This time I plated it, beautifully poured a glass of wine, and lit a single candle. Not to impress anyone, just for me. But growth isn't a straight line. Some nights I'd lie in bed and still hear his voice in my head, mocking, laughing, comparing me to women who were more fun. And I'd wonder, was I really that boring? Was I too safe, too serious, too ordinary? Then I'd remember the look on his face when I told him to leave the shock, the loss of control. He wasn't expecting a woman like me to choose peace over passion. Because peace to him was weakness, but to me it was survival. As weeks turned into months, the transformation became visible. I'd lost a bit of weight, but more than that, I'd shed the heaviness that came from being constantly belittled. My friends noticed. "You look different," they said. "Like you're glowing." Maybe I was not from love, but from freedom. Then one night, while scrolling through messages, I saw a name I hadn't seen in months, Lena Williams' ex. She'd posted something on social media that mutual friends kept sharing. It was a vague post, but the comments told the story clearly enough. Apparently, William had gone back to her for a while after our breakup, and now she was warning other women about him, calling him manipulative, selfish, incapable of commitment. For a moment, I just stared at the screen, my heart oddly calm. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. Everything I'd once blamed myself for not being exciting enough, not being wild enough, was never the problem. It was him. It was always him. And as I closed the app, a strange peace washed over me. For the first time, I didn't care where he was or who he was with. Because while William was chasing noise, I had finally found the music in my own silence. It had been almost 3 months since William left. By then, the silence had turned from something I endured into something I depended on. It was peace, fragile but precious. Until the day he broke it. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was on the floor of my living room, painting my toenails, and humming to a song I loved. The air smelled like fresh coffee and lavender. I'd just cleaned the windows were open, and the sunlight was spilling across the wooden floor. Then came a knock. Firm, familiar. My heart skipped, but my body didn't move. For a moment, I just stared at the door, hoping I was wrong. But the second knock was slower, heavier, like someone testing whether they still belonged. I opened it. William stood there, wearing the same smirk he always wore when he wanted something. Only this time, it didn't reach his eyes. He looked tired. His skin was dull, his hair messy, and the confidence he once flaunted had melted into a quiet desperation. "Isabella," he said softly, like the name itself could undo everything. "William." We stood in silence for a long moment. The smell of cheap cologne and cigarettes clung to him. I could tell he'd been drinking. "You look good," he said finally, eyes flicking around my apartment. "Different." "I am different," I replied. He shifted his weight hands in his pockets. "Can we talk?" "About what?" He hesitated, then sighed. "I messed up, okay? I didn't mean the things I said. I was angry, stupid. You were honest," I said quietly. "There's a difference." He flinched but pressed on. I thought I wanted excitement, but it's all fake. Everyone's fake. You were the only real thing I had." For a second, I almost pitied him. Almost. "You told me I wasn't a real woman." I reminded him, my voice calm but cutting. "You made me believe that stability wasn't worth anything. That calm meant I was lifeless." He ran a hand through his hair. "I didn't mean it like that. I was trying to push you to get us out of the routine." "No," I interrupted. "You were trying to break something you didn't understand." His expression twisted, part frustration, part shame. "Can we just start over?" he pleaded. "I miss us, Don't call me that." His lips parted in surprise. I stepped forward, keeping my voice steady. "You don't get to come back just because chaos didn't work out for you. You walked away from peace, William. You wanted the noise." "I thought I did," he whispered, but all I found was emptiness. For a heartbeat, the air between us was thick with old memories. Laughter, late-night talks, the warmth of love that once felt real. But then I saw the same flicker in his eyes, that restless hunger, always searching for something to fill him up. And I knew he hadn't changed. He just hated being alone. "You should go," I said. "So that's it." His voice cracked. "After everything, you won't even talk to me. There's nothing left to say." He looked around as if expecting the door to open wider. When it didn't, his shoulders dropped. "You'll regret this," he muttered almost to himself. "No," I said softly. I already regretted staying too long. I closed the door before he could answer. For a moment, I just stood there, my hand on the handle, heart pounding. His scent lingered in the hallway, fading like an echo. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat by the window. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. He'd come back looking for the version of me that used to rescue him, the one who bent until she broke. But that woman was gone. Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the curtains. I watched a leaf spin wildly, then land softly on the balcony still. And for the first time, I smiled, because that's what I had become, still and finally free. A week later, a mutual friend called me. "Did you hear about William?" she asked, lowering her voice. "He got fired, missed too many shifts. Apparently he's been struggling." I felt a flicker of something, not joy, not revenge, just a quiet sense of distance. The same way you'd feel hearing about a storm that used to hit your town, but now passes far away. I whispered, "I hope he finds peace someday," and meant it. But I also knew he wouldn't find it in me. A full year had passed since I last saw William. 12 quiet, beautiful months that rebuilt me piece by piece. The woman who once cried over a slammed door now started each morning with purpose. I'd earned another promotion, redecorated my apartment, and even started volunteering at a local community center on weekends. My life wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, every inch of it. So when my friend Ava invited me to her milestone birthday party, I hesitated at first. I hadn't been around our old social circle much. Too many shared memories, too many questions I didn't want to answer. But Ava insisted. "You should come, Bella. You've been glowing lately. It's time people saw it." So I went. The party was held at a rooftop lounge downtown. Laughter. Warm lights, the buzz of chatter blending with soft music. I arrived in a simple black dress, hair loose, heart steady. I wasn't there to prove anything, just to exist, fully. For the first hour, it was perfect. I laughed with old friends, caught up with colleagues, and even danced a little. Then, as I turned toward the bar, I froze. William was there. He stood near the balcony, drink in hand, talking to someone half-heartedly. When his eyes met mine, his expression faltered. He looked startled, then almost relieved. I felt that old ache, distant but recognizable. It didn't hurt anymore. It just reminded me how far I'd come. He made his way over. People parted instinctively as if sensing tension in the air. "Isabella," he said with a faint smile. "Wow, you look incredible." "Thank you," I said simply. "It's been a long time." "Yeah," he shifted awkwardly. "How have you been?" "Good, focused, peaceful." That last word made him flinch, maybe because he remembered how much he once despised it. He chuckled nervously. "I heard you got promoted. Congratulations. You always were the responsible one. Pays off, I guess." A silence stretched between us. The kind of silence that used to make me anxious, desperate to fill it. Not anymore. "Listen," he began, his voice softening. "I know I said some awful things before. I was immature, chasing stupid excitement. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it." I studied him, the same charming features, but duller now, weighed down by regret. "You once told me I wasn't a real woman because I didn't keep things exciting," I said quietly. He looked down. "I know, I was an idiot." "You wanted chaos," I continued. "I wanted a life. You made your choice." "People change," he said quickly, almost pleading. "I've changed. I know what matters now. We could try again, start over. Please, Isabella." The music faded in my mind. The world seemed to pause. For a second, I saw flashes of our past, the dinners, the laughter, the way he used to make me feel seen before he learned how to make me feel small. And then I saw the present me, standing tall, calm, steady. "No," I said gently. "We can't." He blinked. "Why not?" "Because you don't love peace, William. You just hate being alone." His mouth opened, then shut again. "You think you're too good for me now?" he asked bitterly. I gave a small smile. "No, I think I'm too good for the version of myself who thought love meant proving my worth to you." The words came out soft, but they landed like thunder. He looked away, shoulders slumping, his charm evaporating completely. Without another word, he walked off, swallowed by the crowd and the music. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment dissolve. Ava found me soon after, her hand warm on my arm. "You okay?" she whispered. I smiled, truly smiled. "Better than ever." We raised our glasses and I looked out at the skyline, the city lights shimmering like tiny promises. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone's ex or someone's lesson. I felt like my own victory, because I learned that peace isn't boring. It's brave, it's beautiful, and it's the only thing I'll ever choose again.